My name is Mr. Ola. So I'm going to take you calculation on what based on Boyle's law and what and Charles law. When we are talking about Boyle's law and Charles law, we have two formulas. For Boyle's law, from the law, it says that the volume of the what given mass is inversely proportional to the what to the pressure, isn't it? That is P is what inversely proportional to what to the volume. Are you with me now? Then the P can also be what K over what over V. Are you with me? Then the K, let's make case of your formula, that is K equal to PV. We can now arrive to our formula which says P1 V1 equal to P2 V2. That's the formula for what? For Boyle's law. Take note of that. Then from there, we also have some what? The graphical representation of what? Of Boyle's law. Graphical representation of Boyle's law. Everybody must know this. How do you represent Boyle's law in what? In the graph? It's represented by what? By what? By this. Then a line, you go through here, then you have P in millimeter mercury and your V in centimeter cube. Anytime you see these two units, that is what? That is Boyle's law. Anytime you see these two units, that is what? That is Boyle's law. It can also be like this. It can also come like this. Same P millimeter mercury, which is pressure, and what? Volume, that is in what? Centimeter cube. Please take note of something in Boyle's law. Boyle's law always have pressure and what? And volume. Pressure and what? And volume. That is what? That is Boyle's law. Boyle's law always have pressure and what? And volume. Then look at this question now. 200 centimeter cube of a gas has a pressure of 510 millimeter mercury. Anytime you see millimeter mercury, that's your what? That's your pressure. What will be its volume if the pressure is increased to 780 millimeter mercury? According to our formula, Boyle's law, step 1, or let me say solution. Step 1, you write all your parameters out, isn't it? That is your formula. P1 V1 equal to P2 V2. From this question, which one is your best volume? 200 centimeter cube, right? My V1 equal to 200 centimeter cube. Then you look at it again. My pressure one is what? P1 510 millimeter mercury. Okay, I'm now moving to the second part, P2 and V2, isn't it? But they said, what will be its volume? Definitely, I'm looking for my what? For my volume 2, isn't it? V2 unknown. Abi? If the pressure is increased to what? 780 millimeter mercury, that is my P2 equal to what? 780 millimeter mercury. Are you with me? Then we can now apply this what? This formula that I put here now. Let's apply the formula now. If I were you, I will make P2. I will make V2 subject of formula once. How will I do that? From our formula, P1 V1 equal to P2 V2. I want to make this V2 subject formula, isn't it? Represented by what? By P2, Abi? P2 cancel P2, isn't it? We are left with what alone? V2, Abi? Therefore, our V2 equal to P1 V1 over P2. Are you with me now? Then you cannot be putting those numbers there one by one. Your P1 is what? 510, right? Isn't it? On my P1, let me write it here. On my P1, I have what? 510, Abi. On my V1, what do I have there? 200. On my P2, what do I have there? 780. Then you carry your calculator. Then what? You press your final answer. Oh yeah, somebody should do that for me. 510 times 200. Let's be fast. 510 times 200. That is equal to what? 100 and over 780. So therefore, our V2 equal to what? 130.76 centimeter cube. That is that about that. You can cut.